Today I'm just going to go through the Triton and its development of its Ancuabe project and the other pipeline projects we have in the company. Disclaimer, competent person statement as a listed company. So Triton is graphite in Mozambique. Where we are right today is we have near-term production, have the Ancuabe project ready to go into construction, have a clear path to financing with a recent partnership with Jinan High Tech. We have multiple projects with Ancuabe, Nakanda Hill and Nakanda West. And we are in the only graphite producing region in East Africa, and next to some existing graphite producing facilities. So in late June we announced a strategic partnership with Jinan High Tech, who is a Shandong-based provincial state-owned enterprise. A part of that transaction was that they would buy our current largest shareholder, Shandong Tian's 19.3% stake, and invest another $8.5 million into the company, which would take them to a 34% stake post the placement. Key element to this is actually the financial support they are to finalise the funding for the whole capex for the project. So the aim of this is not to go out into the market for any further equity for the construction of this project. They will. We've got NDRC approval. FIRB approval. We're just waiting on the final MOFCOM approval and the transfer of that funds. We're hoping that will be in by Friday. We're just waiting notice for that. After the transaction, they will own 34%, and we'll then be ready to go into a construction of this Ancuabe project. In terms of all reserves, Ancuabe's got a 24.9% million tonne resource at 6.2%, 1.5 million tonnes of contained graphite, enough as a 60,000 tonne operation for at least 30 years. With the indicated and inferred resources, that's probably either probably more like 100-year operation. We also have the world's largest combined graphite and vanadium deposit at Nakanda Hill, very close to where Syrah is, but it's not our priority for the development. We will look at doing a joint venture out on that at some time in the future. And we also have two other projects down there, Nakanda West and Cobra Plains, which have good graphite resources on them, and some of it large flake. In terms of Mozambique, it is a very good place to operate. I've operated in a number of jurisdictions in Africa. It's very favourable in my view. We're in the northern part of theirs. In the Cabo Delgado region. It has a mature mining industry with existing graphite, coal, aluminium and gold operations. And you've seen probably of recent times a lot of gas offshore, which you've got Exxon and Eni, and then the recent Total taking over Anadarko's stake in their project there. So our location is quite favourable. We're only 45 kilometres from an existing port. As the crow flies, it's about 80 kilometres by road, sealed road. We're right next to an existing graphite operating facility at GK, which is Germany's largest graphite producer. They are operating there. They refurbished the old an old plant that was operating. Kenmare Resources had a plant there in the 1990s. they're now sending it all to Germany and reprocessing it there for their products. We have an existing container port there. We're a lot further, and we are actually the closest graphite project in East Africa to an existing port. The good thing about the position is it's known as being very good flake graphite. It's actually being right, it's the same deposit as what GK operate on, and it's largely large flake and high purity. So we're averaging 59% large flake and above, 97.5% average grade by mechanical flotation. But our aim is not to be going into the battery market, it's into the flame retardant building materials, which is a big market going forward with very few suppliers. We have a mining concession, it's fully permitted, we've got an environmental licence there. The product can go into the EV market, but we won't send much of it in. We will spend most of it into the flame retardant building industry because it's much more valuable in there. It is a long life project. The bankable feasibility, definitive feasibility study demonstrated that. We have binding offtake agreements for 52% of the product. We have a signed EPC contract with MCC International and with concessional financing with China Merchant Bank linked to that EPC contract. One thing we were very keen to do here was to make our operations simple and not have new technology, just because the flotation is a very standard flotation. It's a modular design, de-risks the commissioning, and we've spent a lot of time on the metallurgy and design this around that specific deposit. Naganda Hill, which I've mentioned before, is a very large project. We will not develop it on our own. We'll want to. It's ideal for the battery market, and it's mainly fine flake, but has also a vanadium deposit, which is essentially very large, 4.2 million tonne contained V2O5. So we are looking at a joint venture on that project out in the future, but it is a difficult time to do that sort of joint venture today. For us, we are in a very key commodity. Battery and flame retardants are growing at very high rates, so it is in the right commodity. Good asset, good financial returns. The initial DFS was based on $99.3 million capex. With the EPC contract, that's now down to about $85 million. It has a NPV of about $300 million, IRR 35 to 40%. So a very attractive project. It is a great location to operate, and we're very comfortable where we are. One of the things just touch on is that China is the largest supplier of flake graphite, and it is the dominant group in processing of it. We have environmental issues there. Shandong, where our Jinan High-Tech's based and all our offtake is going to, is running out of large flake graphite. And so environmentally and also supply-wise, China is declining as a high-quality producer of graphite. And I think this has been shown by a few people, but there is a structural shortage of supply coming into the market. It doesn't feel like that at the moment with Syrah's issues, but by 2025, we will get into quite a large shortage, in our view. So for us, we think we've got world-class assets. We have near-term production, aiming to go into production by mid-2021. We've got offtakes secured. We're in a good marketplace and a clear path to financing. Thank you.